SDG5, gender equality. Even though women have gained more rights over the past few decades, all around the world there are still places where men and women aren't on the same level. Whether it's the amount of money they receive for working in the same job or stereotypes regarding what they're entitled to do compared to men.
These stereotypes could affect the way people think about themselves. This can change the way people think about their opposite gender, the way they think about gender identifications, and how it could affect the way they are treated.
Hi, I'm Stanicia J. I'm from Brooklyn, New York, and I'm a part of the Junior Ambassador Program. My main focus is gender equality and no poverty. I am mainly focused on this because it is extremely important that we get as many people out of poverty, because it is not fair. Everyone should be able to take care of their family. I am also mainly focused on gender equality because every woman and girl should be able to get the opportunity to go to school all over the world. Here are some facts to educate you on no poverty and gender equality. 60% of women and girls are most likely to go hungry and live in a shelter. Women in sub-Saharan Africa collectively spend 40 billion hours a year collecting water. Women in Ghana spend 2.8 more hours than men collecting water a week. In Cambodia, 48% of rural women are illiterate to 14% of rural men. In Benin and Tanzania, women work 14 to 17.4 more hours a week to men. 20% of women from ages 18 to 24 go into poverty. Places like Egypt, Indonesia, and several African countries build local schools in rural communities to increase girls to go to school. There is a huge stereotype that girls aren't smart. It is proven that young girls less likely to say their own gender is very, very smart. Global goals planned in 2020 to eradicate poverty. I hope these facts educate you and inspire you to help with no poverty and gender equity. Thank you.
Gender stereotypes are the judgment between men and women. People view others by their appearance, how they act, or even their career. Many sports teams get unequal pay. In 2019, after the U.S. women's soccer team won the Women's World Cup, they claimed that they got unequal pay. The women's soccer team got paid $250,000 compared to the U.S. men's soccer team in 2018, which received $400 million. They also claimed that it was because of discrimination. The NBA and Women's NBA also had a difference in pay. The 2018 to 2019 season, the NBA received $582,180, and the Women's NBA got about $79,000. Did you know that more women get unemployed than men? During COVID-19, more African American women all across the country are affected by unemployment. Women are affected by job loss because they're most likely to be in hospitality, service, education, or childcare. In New York City, 78% of women had social work-related jobs. 77% had healthcare jobs. 68% had educational jobs. 52% had retail jobs. And 45% had restaurant and bar jobs. The NYC Commission of Gender Equality is working on gathering data and providing resources to help individuals and families that are affected.
Let's talk about gender inequality. Gender inequality has existed since the beginning of time. Women have been undermined for years and seen as less than men for centuries. And it's unfair, and time we women stand up and bring light to gender inequality. The first thing I want to talk about is something really unexpected. On August 8th, 2017, it was brought to the public attention that Google, out of all companies, had a scandal of some sort about firing an employee over a sexist claim. The claim was that, and I quote, women are less suited to certain roles in tech and leadership. Now, These types of claims and thoughts are what lead to women being undermined. But luckily, Google and Way stood up for us women employees and sued that former employee. Now, although women are usually being undermined, there was an incident that showed a double standard. There was a recent scandal about YouTube star Colleen Ballinger and Adam McIntyre, a male. The scandal consisted of information from 3 years ago about Colleen Ballinger, 30 years old at the time, and Adam McIntyre, 13 years old at the time. The incident was that Colleen had sent undergarments to Adam McIntyre. Now, the part where gender inequality comes into play is when Adam receives backlash for all of that happening. But in reality, Colleen is the one who deserved all the backlash due to the fact that she was the older person in the situation and should have said no to Adam's request. Now, if we think about whether or not the roles were reversed, we all know that if Colleen was a male, she would receive all the backlash just for being a male. And it's time we change that and look at who's right and who's wrong, and not who's a female and who's a male. What leads to these incidents though? Gender stereotypes. It is time we make a change and make a difference in this world.
I want to bring awareness to some issues that need to be brought to light, like toxic masculinity. In this case, men's mental health. I feel like no one really cares about this. Some people think that men should be stronger, and if they show any signs of mental illness or even see the men crying, they are seen as weak. As a society, we tend to take women's mental health more seriously since we see a woman as weaker. Of course, not everyone thinks as the rest of society does, but men's mental health is very real. Men are having more issues with receiving the help they need, and it's killing them. Men go through just as much as females do, and what people fail to see is that men tend to be more sensitive, but because of toxic masculinity, nobody sees this.
Hi, my name is Ronantha W, and I'm a junior ambassador at Brookings Science and Engineering Academy. People in the LGBTQ community still suffer from discriminatory practices. Among women 18 to 44 years of age, 29% of bisexual women and 23% of lesbians are living in poverty, compared to 21% of their heterosexual counterparts. 20% of gay men and 25% of bisexual men 18 to 44 years of age are living at or below the federal level of poverty, compared to 15% of heterosexual men. LGBT youth experience homelessness at a disproportionate rate. Between 11 and 45% of all homeless youth identify as LGBT. LGBT homeless youth are 62% more likely to attempt suicide than their heterosexual counterparts, and they are at greater risk for sexual abuse, exploitation, sexual violence, and drug abuse. Protections. NYC human rights law makes it illegal to discriminate based on actual or perceived sexual orientation or gender. The law protects discrimination at work, at school, in housing, and in public places such as restaurants, movie theaters, or parks. New York State's Gender Expression Non-Discrimination Act, also known as GENDA, deems gender identity and gender expression a protected class under the state's human rights and hate crime laws. And nationally, on Monday, June 15, 2020, the Supreme Court ruled that the Civil Rights Act of 1964 also applies to sexual orientation and gender identity. Here you go, Richelle.
According to the media, real masculinity is when the only acceptable male emotion is anger, and it's out of the norm for them to express their feelings with woman emotions like crying or sadness. When they need to talk about pain they're feeling, they're told to toughen up or to be a man, which does the exact opposite and creates even more pain. While this can be damaging for men, these stereotypes come from childhood expectations for boys. Young boys deal with toxic masculinity everywhere they go, whether it's sports, clothing, their gesture, the way they speak, and more. If they wear pink, they're too girly, and if they don't play sports like basketball and football, they're told they're not boyish enough. Sometimes these expectations can come from the people closest to them, their family, and their peers. Pressure to hide sad emotions, being told to suck it up, and being more manly can not only cause physical damage but mental damage as well.
Thanks, Richelle. Hi, my name is Ronantha W, and I'm a junior ambassador at Brooklyn Science and Engineering Academy. Brazil has over 2 million people. Everyone is peaceful and no one is deceitful. In South America, it's the largest country you'll find, and it's a perfect vacation for when you want to unwind. But in Brazil, women feel like they have no voice. Even though they are equal, they need to make a choice. Even when they try, the roles aren't balanced, even though they show effort and have equal talent. See, that's when Bertha Lutz stepped in. She wanted to be heard and support all women. She did this as a delegate at the UN. When she told them about women's suffrage in Brazil, they knew exactly what she meant. Men and women had different responsibilities, even though they have the same capabilities. Women did all the work and cleaned up the waste, while the men were entitled to work the business place. Men made 45% more than women in 2017. They couldn't believe it and thought it was all a dream. Women shouldn't feel like they have to make a choice. That's why we all need to use our voice. Bertha Lutz was born on August 2nd, 1894. She was a Brazilian scientist and suffragist that had arrived in San Francisco to participate as a delegate at the United Nations Founding Conference. She had been at the forefront of the Brazil's suffrage movement for decades as president of the Brazilian Federation for Feminine Progress. After the movements, Brazilian women achieved the right to vote in 1932. And Lutz had become one of the first women elected to Congress. She had once said, "Recusar direitos iguais às mulheres em virtude do sexo e negar justiça à metade população," which means to refuse women equal rights by virtue of sex is to deny justice to half the population.
Sojourner Truth. Sojourner Truth was born in 1797 and died November 26, 1883. She was born a slave, so she didn't exactly know her birthday. She was an American abolitionist and women's rights activist. She escaped with her daughter to freedom in 1826 after going to court to recover her son in 1828. She became the first black woman to win such a case against a white man. After the New York anti-slavery law passed, Dumont illegally sold Isabella's 5-year-old son Peter with the help of Van's wagon. She filed a lawsuit to get him back. Months later, Isabella won her case to regain custody of her son. She was the first black woman to sue a white man in the United States court and prevail. The Van's wagon had profound impact on Isabella's spirituality, and she has become a fervent Christian. In 1829, she moved to New York City with Peter to work as a housekeeper for evangelist preacher Elijah Pearson. Her children are James, who died in childhood, Diana, who was born in 1815, Peter, who was born in 1821, Elizabeth, who was born in 1828, and Sophia, who was born in 1826.
Charlotte Jacobs, born February 13, 1847, and died October 31st, 1916. She was the first female pharmacist in 1879, a Dutch feminist, the second female university student in the Netherlands, founder of the first women's movement in Dutch East Indies. She said women had won the right to vote, but women's suffrage had made little impact on the political process. Her sister, Elisa Jacobs, born February 9, 1854, and died August 10, 1929, was the first official woman to attend a Dutch university. She said, "I was too deeply influenced by what I had seen and by my belief that this work would benefit humanity."
Anna Julia Cooper is an American author, educator, sociologist, and speaker. She is the first woman from the District of Columbia to receive a PhD.
Ida B. Wells, born July 16, 1862. She was a famous investigative journalist, civil rights leader, and educator. She was one of the founders of the National Association for the Advancement of Colored People, otherwise known as NAACP. She once said, "Virtue knows no color, line, and the chivalry which depends upon complexion of skin and texture of hair can command no honest respect."
Dorothy Height, born on March 12, 1912, and passed away on April 20th, 2010. She focused on issues of African American women like unemployment, illiteracy, and voter awareness. She was president of the National Council of Negro Women for over 40 years, and is also famous for two of her quotes that are, "We are not a problem people, we are people with problems. I am the product of many whose lives have touched mine, from the famous, distinguished, and powerful to the little known and the poor."
Susan B. Anthony. She was an American social reformer. She was a women's rights activist who played a pivotal role in the women's suffrage movement. She was against slavery and she collected anti-slavery petitions at the age of 17. She was born in a Quaker family committed to social equality. She fought for the right for women to vote, and she worked a lot with Elizabeth Cady Stanton.
Vonda Reddock, born June 7, 1953. She is a Trinidadian educator, social and women's rights activist, served as a founder, chair, advisor, and a member at many organizations, like the Caribbean Association for Feminist Research and Action. She said, "It was up to us to make these spaces where we want to live."
Malala Yousafzai, July 12, 1997. Youngest person to receive the Nobel Peace Prize. The UN names July 12 Malala Day. Activist for female education. Was shot by the Taliban on October 9, 2012. Inspired by her father, who was a teacher who ran multiple schools in the district. Created the Malala Fund to help girls around the world get an education. Here are a few quotes from Malala. "We realize the importance of our voices only when we are silenced. One child, one teacher, one book, one pen can change the world."
Hillary Clinton is an American politician, diplomat, lawyer, writer, and public speaker. She was the most traveled secretary ever. She became the first woman ever to be nominated a presidential candidate. She was the 67th U.S. Secretary of State in 2009 to 2013. She was the U.S. Senator in 2001 to 2009. She was the First Lady in 1993 to 2001.
Michelle Obama, born January 17, 1964, former First Lady of the United States from 2009 to 2017, American lawyer and author, first African American First Lady of the United States, studied at Princeton University in 1985, Harvard University in 1988, sociology degree from Princeton, and launched the Let's Move campaign to reduce child obesity. Here are some of her quotes. "You can't make a decision based on fear and the possibility of what might happen." Another quote, "When I hear about negativity and false attacks, I don't really invest any energy into them because I know who I am." Jacqueline E. Banks, Executive Director of the New York City Commissioner of Gender Equality, immigrated from Jamaica, holds a master's degree in policy analyst and public management from the State University of New York at Stony Brook. She has worked for over 3 decades to promote economic and social justice for women and girls and marginalized groups. We were fortunate to meet with Director Ebanks to discuss the issues facing gender in today's society. Here is one of her quotes. "You can't oppress one group and believe you're free."
How can you make a positive impact on gender equality?
For everyone.
Will you make a change?
then stand up for gender equality.
Can you do so? You believe in equality?
I challenge you to make a difference. Help out.